What's your take on the reinstatement of the death penalty?
Do you agree or do you disagree?
I am Chris,
And I am Avi. Welcome to Chat with Grace and Avi.
a podcast for social issues,
Environmental and political issues.
a safe place where we can talk freely.
And learn new things. So stay tuned because for today's episode, we will tackle a very controversial issues.
So partner, what are we going to chat about for today?
Well, on last week's episode, we talked about the issue regarding toxic masculinity. For today's topic, partner, we're going to talk about a very controversial social or political issues.
Really? How controversial is it?
Well, it's all about the legalization of the death penalty here in the Philippines.
That is a controversial issue. Well, it's a good thing that we have attorney Miss Christine to tell us all about the history of legalization of the death penalty.
Indeed, listeners, let me introduce to you Attorney Christine Acailar, our guest speaker who will walk us through the history of the legalization of the death penalty, how it started, when it started, and the opinion of our guest. So partner, let's call on Attorney Christine.
Welcome, Miss Christine. Thank you so much for coming to chat with us.
Hello everyone. No problem, Chris and Avi. It is a pleasure to be a guest here.
Thank you, attorney. So, attorney, what is the death penalty?
Well, Chris, the death penalty is a law where a criminal is executed to death after they have been convicted by the court of law by a criminal offense. This law is a penalty for heavy crimes like treason, murder, rape, and a lot more crimes.
So Miss Christine, how did the death penalty start?
Well, the death penalty can be dated back when we were still colonized by the Spaniards. They legalized this law to impose power over the Filipinos.
You know, Miss Christine, I did my research last night. And is it true that if we weren't colonized, we wouldn't have a death penalty?
Actually, it is not true that the death penalty was legalized by the Spaniards, but it was already existing before the colonization. It just wasn't a formal legal death penalty.
Really? I didn't know that. What is the basis of their death penalty?
It was mostly treachery. Their death penalty was by hanging and decapitation. In the Spanish colonization, however, their death sentence broadened to shooting, electrocuting, and hanging the guilty.
So did the legalization of the death penalty take place in the Spanish colonization?
Yes, this law was used by the Spaniards to ensure their tyranny and repression in the Philippines. And with the influence of the Spaniards, even after the colonization, the death penalty still existed.
But I hear that this law was abolished way back in the 80s.
Yes, it was abolished in 1987. However, it got reinstated a few years after it was trashed. The death penalty is also somewhat inconsistent with its terms as it keeps on getting trashed and or reinstated. Since the Philippines is a very conservative country, a lot of Filipinos think that this law is contradicting with their religious belief and should not be practiced.
Did they vote on the abolishment of this law?
Yeah, did the netizens vote on it?
Unfortunately, they debated on it, but the decision lies with the government. After being reinstated in 1993 among the public overall, 64% says the death penalty is morally justified in case of murder, while 33% says it is not justified. An overwhelming share of death penalty supporters, 90%, say it is morally justified under such circumstances, compared with 25% of death penalty opponents.
How about today, November 26, 2021? Is the death penalty still legal?
Yes, it is, despite the death penalty being abolished again in 2006 by President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. But with Duterte's term in 2016, he attempted to reintroduce the death penalty to fight on the war on drugs. It didn't push through, but with their extrajudicial killings, it is as if the death penalty is back and legal. Duterte aimed to strengthen the country's security with this law in order to gain peace and control with the criminals.
Well, that was very insightful. Thank you so much, Attorney Christine, for coming down here and chatting with us.
Thank you, Attorney, for chatting with us regarding this issue.
Thank you, Chris and Avi, for having me. If you need me again, just call me, okay? Thank you!
Thank you so much, Attorney. Now, let's move on to our opinions about this law. I have 3 students from Liceo de Cagayan University who are activists, and I would love to know and to hear their opinion about this law being reintroduced by Duterte.
That is right, partner. Now let's call on Mr. Paul, Mrs. Wendy, and Mrs. Crizel.
Hello guys! Welcome to Chat with Chris and Avi!
Hello. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, it is an honor. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So, I'm gonna be straightforward. As Miss Christine said, Duterte attempted to reinstate the death penalty. So, what are your thoughts regarding this law getting reintroduced?
As part of one of the biggest religions here in the Philippines, we should consider this. As a Catholic and as a citizen here in this country, I say that the legalization of the death penalty should be blocked. Because I believe that by killing, we do nothing. It will just make the situation worse. Lifetime imprisonment is enough for a person who committed a crime, no matter how big it is.
I also believe that we should abolish the death penalty since it violates human rights.
Most importantly, the death penalty is an anti-poor law. Not once have I seen a rich politician get killed because of their crimes. Instead, they get special treatment inside of prison. The injustice is demented.
So, will you guys vote for the death penalty being abolished?
Yes!
Thank you guys for sharing your thoughts on this issue. I hope the listeners also think about their opinion.
Well, for now, let's take a break and play this instrumental first.
And we're back. Thank you to 17 for sponsoring this episode. If you are looking for background music for your podcast, check out their profile link in our description box in all our streaming platforms. I hope that you all are still listening, and I hope our break made you feel comfortable and refreshed. So let's ask my partner, Chris. What's your take on the death penalty?
Honestly, I think that it shouldn't exist. I feel like criminals dying will only escape their crimes by dying. I think isolation is so much more torturing, a more efficient punishment than death.
Why is isolation better?
I actually realized this recently. Because of the pandemic, we were isolated for almost 2 years, and it was such a suffocating experience. We aren't even criminals, and it was like torture being locked in our homes, not being able to go outside. So, enough about my opinion. Abby, what's your opinion on the death penalty?
I'm actually unsure of my answer, Chris. If I'm being honest with you, I think if the person really deserves to die for the crime that he or she has done, I think that the death penalty really fits for that. But with the Philippines injustice, rich people always get away with their crimes. So my answer would probably be yes if the law is just fair enough. And if it's still anti-poor, I'd only say no for that.
What a refreshing opinion. What a way to end this podcast.
On a more light-hearted note, partner, we at least finished this topic with ease. I was actually nervous about this podcast since it's really controversial.
Well, good thing. Next week, our topic would be about animals.
You never fail to make me laugh, partner. Anyway, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys have learned something new today.
Thanks to all of our guests who came, and to all the listeners. What are your thoughts on the reinstatement of the death penalty? Comment down below. This has been Chris.
And Abby.
Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all our streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and Patreon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.